Why are we doing chakra meditation? To awaken the chakras to higher levels of perception, to become conscious of our karmas and samskaras and rise above them, to break the cycle of samsara and to return to Sat Chidananda. To help us in this quest, we have been bequeathed a very priceless gift, and that is a description of the chakras and their functions in each of the three realms. So that when we do our practices, our prayers, our focus, our inward focus on the spine, we can be more precise, more lucid, more effective on making changes in ourselves, changes that we want to see, and sanskaras that we want to illuminate with consciousness. And so what we're going to map out for you now is what are the physical, the astral, and the causal functions of each of the chakras. The value in this is that if you identify in yourself, I'm having trouble with this physical function of my body, or I'm having trouble with the emotions, these types of emotions, or I'm having trouble with this thinking process, that describes me. This is a clear guide to where we should focus chakra meditation, because those are the sanskaras that are disturbing us. That being said, we need to explore now what are the physical, the astral, and the causal embodiments. How are they controlled and influenced by each of the chakras? The first chakra of the 7 chakras that we will explore, appropriately enough, Muladhara Chakra. Muladhara Chakra at the base of the spine, its physical symptomology, if we're wondering how am I doing with Muladhara Chakra, its physical symptomology is the urogenital system, sexual function, urinary function, troubles, disturbances, health, power. These are the functions, the indications of the healthy functioning of Muladhara Chakra, or dysfunctions. If the samskaras are dysfunctional, if the karma is bad, we have trouble there. If the samskaras are functional, if the karmas are not bad, we're healthy there. In the astral dimension, the best English words we can come up with is the emotion of anger or strength. It's not the best word, it's the most adequate word. Anger, the ability to push through, to create something new in spite of resistance, is not a bad thing. I will not be put aside. I will change what is. I will not be content. This is a plant pushing up through a rock. This is the tantric meaning of anger. It doesn't have the negative connotation necessarily of the English anger. But it's a good word in that all of the emotions and the thoughts and the physical functions of every chakra are good or bad, depending on our samskaras. And if we're easily angered, because we have no patience for making changes in ourselves, or we see a slowness in the willingness of others to change, and now an energy that is necessary to create change in ourselves, or to create change in our environment. We need that energy, that desire to change things. But if we go into an egotistical like and dislike, it's not happening fast enough, it's not quite the way that I want, you're the reason why these things are the way that they are, now it becomes destructive. I'm easily angered. And this is true at all these levels. Good and bad in and of themselves is inaccurate. Anger is a good function. If the sanskaras are bad and clouded by egotism, it becomes destructive. We need strength. Whether in the physical realm, the astral realm, the spiritual realm, we need strength to achieve anything. We need this strength. If it's deflected, it works against us. The causal realm function of Muladhara isn't so much a thought as a sense of where we are. We wake up, we innately think, this is where I am. This is me. This is what I experience. If we got in a car wreck, died on the operating table, had a near-death experience, we wouldn't have that sensation. We'd be up above our body looking down. The Shakti would rise up out of Muladhara Chakra, out through the top of the head, and we'd think, oh, that's where we are now. I am there, looking down. Oh, that's a weird looking body. Oh, that's my body. But when the Shakti descends back into the body, we go, oh, I'm here now. And I wonder where my astral body is. So Muladhara is the sense of I am here right now, physically or astrally, or even higher than that, causally. So it isn't so much a thought the way that we think it in the English tongue, but what types of thought we have certainly makes a difference if we feel we're looking out from these physical eyes or looking down on this physical body. We're going to have different thoughts and different emotions depending on where we feel where we are at. This is the essence of Shakti. This is where I am, in this body, right here, at the base of this spine. We need to rise that energy up. If we're to open to the astral and the causal realms, we need to stir that energy to rise to a higher dimension of function. So the three functions of Muladhara Chakra: urogenital system in the physical dimension, anger, strength, power, determination in the astral emotional dimension, and this is me, this is where I'm from, this is where I reason from, in the causal dimension. The second chakra and the ladder of the 7 chakras, Svadhisthana Chakra, here in the sacrum, opening to the lower abdomen. It's physical, astral, and causal emotions and functions. We're meditating. Where should we meditate? Which chakra is functioning? Again, this is an indication. It shares with the first chakra a control over the urogenital system. These two chakras are intimately related because they are the potential and the active home of Shakti. So the physical system is the same. The bladder, sexual function, the kidneys. This is the urogenital system. The astral emotion associated with Svadhisthana is fear and lust, two antagonistic things. I desperately want that. I'm desperately afraid of that. I want to get as close as I can to that. I want to get as far away as I can from that. And obviously, sometimes you need to get as far away from something that's going to hurt you or injure you or be to your detriment. Other times, you want to be as close as you can to something that's going to give you pleasure or further you in some way. This is the primitive like and dislike of an animal or a scared and frightened or instinctive human being. These are very instinctive things. Svadhisthana Chakra and Muladhara Chakra, the first chakra to a lesser extent. But Svadhisthana Chakra is the home of modern terminology of the unconscious. Primitive urges, sexual urges, fearful urges. This is Svadhisthana Chakra. This is the type of fear or aggression that would arise like from a pet. Your favorite pet, if you inadvertently moved its food bowl, might instinctively turn and nip at your hand and growl and bark. And then wag its tail because it's so sorry for what it did, but it was an instinct. Human beings the same. Sometimes we snap, we say things we don't mean or shouldn't mean, we lose our temper, we are inappropriate in our behavior, and then we immediately regret it. And we go like, where did that come from? The notion of where did that come from is indicative of Svadhisthana Chakra. This is why teenagers are so moody. When Svadhisthana Chakra starts to become open, it means that the sanskaras, sexuality and physicality that have been relatively dormant as a child, are awakening. And all of a sudden, this nymph of a person that was totally fascinated by butterflies and sunshine and rainbows and puppy dogs is now totally preoccupied with sensations that are rising up within inside them. That's why they're moody and introspective, because what's rising inside of them was unknown to them before. Levels of their unconscious now are being activated by Shakti. And now they're no longer completely predictable little nymphs that are dazzled by the outer realm. They have their own inner realm now that's starting to come up. This is Svadhisthana Chakra. We need this energy in our spiritual life. We need to channel and transmute these fundamental lusts and passions. We need that strength. It's innately attractive to see someone with strong sexuality. It's innately attractive because that strength is transformative in every dimension. The physical dimension, the astral dimension, and the causal dimension. We need passion. But we need a passion liberated from self-interest. That's the tough part. And the instincts that rise up from an untrained, unexamined Svadhisthana chakra are egotistical in the extreme. Hence the moody teenager. The child that used to be an open book to read, hid nothing from you, now is secretive and closed and starting to have their own agenda. And I will sneak out of my room tonight to go do what I want and not share that with my parents. This is all egotistical, my pleasure above all things. This is something to guard against in the spiritual life. We need that energy. If we're going to truly change, we need to transmute these basic primitive impulses, not bury them and suppress them. We need to become conscious of them. Shiva and Shakti. The causal thought process of Svadhisthana chakra is justifications. As human beings, we're very good at justifying our desires, masking our desires, not admitting to our primitive desires. Dr. Motoyama did an experiment that illustrates this justification thinking very well. He did an experiment where he told people that we were going to hypnotize the subjects and ask them a battery of questions under hypnosis and a battery of questions not under hypnosis to see what changed in their responses. That's what they told the subjects. What they really did was this. They hypnotized the subjects and gave them a post-hypnotic suggestion that whenever so-and-so claps his hands, you will stop instantly what you're doing, get up, walk across the room, and open the window. Didn't ask them any questions. So they hypnotized the subjects, gave them this post-hypnotic suggestion, brought them back out of the hypnotic state, and then pretended a whole 5 or 6 scholars in white jackets to interview them. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And this person's thinking and answering. And then someone goes, claps their hands. The person stands up, breaks off the interview, walks across the room, opens the window, comes back and sits down. And then the 5 interviewers, sort of feigning surprise, are like, why did you do that? And almost without exception, the people would say, well, I thought it was hot in here. Didn't you ask me to open the window? It was musty. They would make up a reason after the fact of why they went and opened the window. None of which was true. They're simply trying to avoid embarrassment, that they got up and opened the window. And the habit of human beings is to hide or disguise their primitive impulses. Those people who had more of a habit of introspection and meditation would at least have the honesty to go, you know, I don't really know why I did that. But that was the exception. Everyone else just habitually, boom, it was hot, it was cold, it was... None of which is true. But we're in such a habit of hiding instincts that we just spin stories all the time. This is why in psychotherapy, it can be very difficult to get to what a person is really thinking and really feeling, because we are so practiced at this. We want to become more honest, not to blab our faults and lusts to the world, but so that we don't fool ourselves on what our motivations are. We need to admit consciously our primitive instincts. If we bury them under shame, they're just going to sprout in 100 different directions, as all the sexual scandals in all the churches around the world testify to. We must become conscious of these things, not suppress them. We must avoid justifying what we're doing. If we don't know what we're doing, let's admit that we don't know what we're doing. That's better than justification. Physically, the urogenital system. Astrally, fear and lust. Causally, justifications. Easily angered people usually Svadhisthana Chakra. They just lash out. It doesn't last. They don't hold a grudge. Just easily angered and distraught because they're sitting on a volcano of unaddressed repression in this area. And if that describes us, we need to address that in our chakra meditation. The third chakra to discuss in the physical, astral, and causal realm is Manipura Chakra, the upper abdomen. Manipura controls the digestive organs. You have trouble with your digestion, you might want to explore Manipura Chakra. Everyone has trouble with the digestion once in a while. It doesn't necessarily mean a disturbance of Manipura Chakra. But if this is an habitual state or weakness, it is something to explore. The astral emotion associated with Manipura Chakra is worry or contentment, the two antagonistic or flip side yin and yang views of this emotion. When things are going my way, I'm content. If I have an inkling that things might not go my way, I am worried. And typically this is preoccupied with the future, not so much the present. So worry is about the future. What might happen? That could happen, this could happen. If that happens, that'd be good, I'd be contented. But if that happens, I'm very worried. And if one of those gets the upper hand, I'm naively optimistic, or I'm completely shrunken and fearful, which is more usual for the Manipura Chakra, to be completely preoccupied with what might go wrong. The causal thinking process is fearing and hoping for the future, plans for the future. Something happens. I just got hired by this company. Oh my God, I'm going to buy a new home. I'll probably get, advanced very quickly. And when I get my next salary increase, as soon as we're hired for the job, we're already 10 years down the line of what does this mean for myself and my career. And it happens very fast. Oh, it all means this. This is what's going to happen now that I've been hired. And that could be a fearful thing or a hopeful thing. And I was going, oh, but if this happens, then as I lose my job, that means I'll never work again. I'll lose my house. If I lose my house, I'll lose my insurance. And this is typical Manipura thinking. It's not primitive. It's not trying to disguise a primitive impulse or emotion. It's sort of spinning out of control what's happening to me in my life. It's projecting based on nothing but fantasy. Good days are coming. No, bad days are coming. To be more level here, we need to go like, well, that was a bad event, but that doesn't mean bad days are coming. And this was a good event, but that doesn't mean good days are coming. We need to get a handle on these wild, soaring, hopeful plans for the future and completely dreadful, paralyzing, fearful thoughts of what might happen wrong in the future. So fearful and hopeful thinking of the future. And it happens very quickly. This leads to wild ups and wild downs. It's not bad to plan and fantasize about the future when you're sitting in front of a fire or having a glass of wine. It can be pleasing. It's not unwise to sometimes plan for what might go wrong so you're prepared for it and not shocked if it happens. So we need these abilities. This is a uniquely human ability. Animals don't have this ability to hope and plan for the future. So we need this to make plans, to create, to anticipate. But like anything, it's a function that can serve us or a function that can disserve us. And in chakra meditation, we will become more conscious of these functions so that when it's useful, we use it. And when it's not useful, we stop using it. So in the physical dimension, digestion. In the astral dimension, worry or hope, worry or contentment. And in the causal thinking process, spinning tales out of every little thing that happens to us of what this all means. Reading meaning into things that maybe aren't so meaningful. The next chakra that we will explore in the physical, astral, causal dimensions, Anahata Chakra. It's squeeze the shoulder blades together. That's its approximate location in the spine. And the opening to the front of the body is behind the sternum, the thoracic cavity. Its physical astral and causal functions are, it is the heart, obviously, that dominates the movement, the circulation of blood in the body. Also, the heart is the dominant chakra that moves the energy out to the senses. So the more subtle circulatory function of the heart is to control the movement of prana. Sending prana outwards or inwards is a function of the heart. So it's a circulation not just of blood, but of the vital circulating life force in the body. So if you have a problem there with your circulation, a weak heart, a strong heart, it'll be manifesting dysfunctions in Anahata Chakra. And again, I have to remind ourselves, everyone has heart palpitations now and then. Everyone's heart races now and then. But what is habitual, we should pay attention to. The astral emotion is joy, jealousy. I'm very happy for myself or someone that I'm a fan of. Or I'm very envious and jealous of what someone else is getting that I'm not getting. Vivekananda, great Swami early in this century, or early in the last century, said the true test of ahimsa, non-violence, is jealousy. Says it's very difficult not to be jealous of the success of others, particularly if they're in our own sphere of the world. We're not jealous of the success of others if we're not in the same profession. We're very jealous of the success of others if they're in our profession. A Roman poet once said, you could have two great poets living in your city, and everyone will speak well of them, except they of each other. There is a natural violence or jealousy that you can see even in animals. You know, animals will be jealous of your affection. If you're giving one of your pets affection, the other animal becomes jealous of the affection. It's an instinctive thing. And it's something that as yoga people we want to become conscious of and rise above it. It's an instinctive thing, jealousy. It's an instinctive thing to feel good if someone compliments us, if we get appraised, if we get rewarded, if we get, recognized. You can't help but be affected by that. And there's no reason to suppress it. But to turn it to an egotistical, I'm better than everyone else and I'm winning now, this is just tying ourselves to the wheel of samsara. Because sooner or later we'll be on the bottom of that wheel again. The thinking process is right and wrong, winning and losing. For my personal life, it's winning and losing. Am I winning? Am I winning? Am I comparing well with everyone? On a broader scheme, politics, religion, is that right or is that wrong? It's judgment, condemnation. Is it right or is it wrong? That's not right. What they're doing is not right. It's not a personal thing. It's a judgment thing. It interferes with my moral sense of what's right or wrong. And if that gets out of hand, it becomes fanatical violence. I just can't stand that those people do that. Don't they know how wrong that is? They must die. We do this in subtle ways. That's just not right. That's not right. And in subtle ways, we try to undermine what other people are doing because it's not right. And this isn't necessarily personal. This could be political, could be religious. Winning and losing, that's more personal, small-minded, egotistical. He shouldn't have got that promotion, I should have got that promotion. Why does he get the book deals? I should get the book deals. That's more personal. On a broader, non-personal level, it's right and wrong. That religion is right. That political system is right. How could you vote for him? It's not necessarily personal. It just offends what we think is right or wrong. And we need to have a sense of right and wrong. We need to have a sense of right and wrong. It's just this balancing act of how violently or how aggressively do we try to redress what we see as right or wrong. And there's, of course, no simple answer to these things. If your neighbor next door is being beaten up by someone, do you just go, oh, well, whatever? Or do you act on your sense of what's right and what's wrong? So good and bad in and of themselves, difficult to define. The more personal and egotistical it is, the worse it's going to be for us, these feelings. the more we forget about our own self-interest and do try to do what's right, do the right thing, even if it's bad for me personally, that's strong Anahata Chakra. The physical dimension, movement of blood and movement of chi or prana. In the astral dimension, joy, happiness, I'm winning, jealousy. In the causal dimension, right or wrong in the broader scheme of things, winning or losing in the personal scheme of things. We all experience these things. All of us experience these thinking processes and these emotions. It's what's habitual. Is it out of control? This is what guides whether or not we need to work on this consciously in our chakra meditation. These are the sanskaras we need to overcome if we're to break the cycle of samsara. The fifth of the 7 chakras, Vishuddha, opens to the throat, base of the curve of the neck. This is its physical location. Its function in the 3 dimensions, it controls the breath or respiration. Its emotion is grief or poignancy. And its causal thought processes attention and reflection. Respiratory system, obvious, the breathing, but it implies something deeper as well. It implies the entire metabolism of the body. We need to breathe as much as we need to bring energy into the body. And if the metabolism's burning hot, we breathe a lot. If the metabolism's burning slow, we don't breathe as much. So respiratory system implies the energetic setting of the body. So the physical organ, throat, lungs, bronchial, breathing. Habitual problems there, we need to investigate Vishuddha Chakra. Everyone has problems once in a while. Everyone catches a cold. That's not necessarily a dysfunction of Vishuddha. But habitually weak, habitually overactive in some way, we should examine the Vishuddha Chakra. The emotions associated with the Vishuddha Chakra have to do with attachment, with grief or poignancy. Attachment. Grief doesn't need any definition. When you're grieving, you regret what has happened. I wish that hadn't had happened. Poignancy is that you accept what has happened. You may not personally have preferred that it happened, but the poignancy, the ephemeral nature of things lends a beauty to them that can best be described as poignant. A story for this is some young meditators came to their master struggling with the definition of non-attachment. And they came to their master and says, "Master, how can you be so happy all the time when, sickness and fear and death are creeping around us and we can't protect ourselves or our loved ones from these inevitabilities? How can you be happy?" And the master picked up a beautiful glass and held it and said, "Look at this glass. It's beautiful, isn't it? It was a gift to me. And in my mind, this glass is already broken. But in the time between now when it was made and when it breaks, it's a beautiful thing." That's the proper attitude of non-attachment. It's not disinterest. It's not the cutting off from emotions. It's the, "Oh my God, the glass could break. This is a terrible thing. What will I do?" There's no pleasure in that. Fear that it will break. Grief when it does break. There's no wisdom in this. It's natural. It's instinctive. It's understandable. But there's no wisdom in it. Chakra meditation on Vishuddha Chakra will eventually awaken us to all things are passing in every instant. And if we see it the right way, it makes all things all the more beautiful, because this instant is gone even as I experience it. And this gives a poignancy to this moment. And that's the mastery of non-attachment. Not the deadening of emotions, but the proper appreciation that all things are ephemeral. It's actually the broadening of emotion and wisdom. Non-attachment is a much misunderstood word from the Eastern traditions. The causal thought processes have to do with the ability to concentrate, to hold your attention on what's important and not be distracted, and to reflect on what has passed. To reflect on it. Not grieve for it, but to reflect on it. Why did it happen? Could it have been prevented? Is there a better, smarter way to proceed in the future? This is reflection. Not grieving. Grieving is not thinking. Grieving is an emotion. But reflection can change this. So the ability to hold our attention, the ability to reflect. Someone with a weak Vishuddha, they spin castles in the air all the time, and they typically get lost even in their own conversations when they're the only one speaking. They just lose the thread of what got them going in this conversation. And they take so many side steps in this, and that reminds me of this, and after a while they're like, no, where was I and where did I get here? And you bring them back to the thread of the conversation, and if left to themselves, they'll be out here somewhere in the course of their conversation, or their thinking. This is weak Vishuddhi. They can't stay on the point. So if that describes you, or describes me, we need to focus on the techniques to awaken Vishuddha Chakra, stronger Shakti, stronger Shiva, so that we can become aware of these sanskaras here. So in the physical dimension, Vishuddha is respiration. In the astral dimension, it's grief or poignancy. And in the causal, thinking dimension, it is our ability to hold our attention or to reflect, to think back, to recreate in our minds what happened without distortion. The sixth of the 7 chakras and its function in the 3 dimensions. Agya Chakra, the base of it is the medulla oblongata, the base of the skull where the spine enters into the skull. And its flower opening is towards here, point between the eyebrows, the lower forehead area. Its physical organ that it controls primarily is the central nervous system and also the meridian system of the body, Chinese energetic meridian system of the body. So the coordination of the entire body, the nerves, the central nervous system. Troubles with that? Agya Chakra. Astral emotion, this is difficult because it's really not an emotion. We have tough English words for this. It's a glimpse or a view of a state of being that is pleasurable even though nothing works out the way that I want. That's what we mean by transcendent. It doesn't matter if things work out the way I want or I don't. I can get myself into a samadhi or an opening here of this chakra that it doesn't matter if things go my way or if everything goes against me. There is a bliss, an ananda, that's not dependent on outward circumstance in any way. Hence it is transcendent. We have glimmers of this in a yoga practice, a simple hatha yoga practice. You walk in, you could be preoccupied with thoughts of your health or your job or not enough money or my relationships are going bad, whatever it is. You do your practice, you walk, you lay down in dead man's pose, you feel better. Nothing's changed. Relationships haven't changed, job hasn't changed, money hasn't changed, nothing's changed. But you're in this temporary experience of those things can't touch what I'm experiencing right now. And that's Agya Chakra. I don't know if you'd call that an emotion, but that's where we put it in our little scheme of things. If we're too hectic, too overwhelmed by too many things, it's time to get calm and try to feel and perceive through our practices. There is a soothing of our suffering. There is a blissful state that is not dependent on whether we win or lose and whether our karma is good or bad. It's always available to us. We just don't tend to count on it as much as the solid things that we can taste and touch. The causal thinking process associated with Agya Chakra is reasoning, thinking clearly, having completely new ideas, reasoning without prejudice, reasoning without self-interest, to be able to look at ourselves and our own lives and calmly assess our strengths and our weaknesses without, oh man, this means I'm winning or I'm losing, without trying to disguise it, or to just reason scientifically about the nature of the world. The ability to entertain new and different ideas. If we can entertain new and different ideas without reacting to them, we are awakening Agya Chakra. We're becoming free of our thoughts. The ideal is to be able to view our thoughts and our opinions as objectively as we would view anyone else's. We should be able for a time to suspend our thinking, try to get into how other people are thinking, assess it without prejudice, and if we prefer it to our old thinking, adopt it. If we don't prefer it to our old thinking, dismiss it, but without emotion. So, if I'm a staunch Christian believer, and someone comes up to me and says, I don't believe Christ ever really lived. I think it was a myth. I think it was made up by a bunch of guys to, foist a religion. You shouldn't feel any hatred towards this individual. You're like, interesting idea. Any proof of that, or is that just a drunken opinion? And he has proof, doesn't have proof. We should be able to entertain that idea. Suspend our own reasons for a little while and go, interesting. I don't think that holds water, but interesting that you think that way. And then go back to what I believe and the reasons why I believe it. But this habit will get us to question ourselves, questioning others objectively, and not offhandedly rejecting how ridiculous they are. We get a handle on why we believe the way that we believe. Am I a Christian because I was brought up that way? Do I even understand? Have I ever read the Bible? Why do I believe in Christianity? These things would lead to a strengthening of our faith, not a weakening of it. But if we're afraid to examine contrary reasons and different ways of thinking, we will not be able to examine our own reasons why we believe and think the way that we do. This is reasoning without prejudice. When employed correctly, it strengthens our faith. Okay, so summarizing Agya Chakra in the 3 dimensions. Physical dimension, it controls the central nervous system. And the astral dimension is a glimmer of a state of well-being, of bliss that's not dependent on outward circumstance. And in the causal realm, it's reason without prejudice, to be able to see our ideas that we treasure so tightly, just as objectively as we see other people's ideas. Not that we don't maintain our ideas, but we're willing to examine at any time different types of ideas so that I don't become too stuck in my own. The 7th chakra of the 7 chakras, the crown of the head, Sahasrara. Again, it shares a similar function to the 6th chakra. The potential of Shiva is greatest consciousness, awareness in the brain, and so it controls the central nervous system in the body. Its astral emotion, again, is difficult to describe. It's really not an astral emotion. It's a transcendent bliss, and this bliss, again, is not dependent on outward circumstances. In the higher levels of meditation, of yoga, of chakra awakening, this transcendent bliss can be experienced without being in meditation or being in trance. It's called nirvikalpa samadhi. Whereas the transcendent bliss that we can feel and glimpse through the 6th chakra, we typically have to enter into trance to experience that. And when we come out of trance, it lingeringly, slowly dissipates. But with enough repetition of entering into that state, that contact of that blissful state, eventually our consciousness rises more up to the 7th chakra. And now, waking, sleeping, I feel this transcendent bliss all the time. If I'm this type of being, I needn't necessarily enter into meditation or enter into a trance to taste it, to experience it again. It's called nirvikalpa samadhi. So the blissful state is essentially the same of what we glimpsed at the 6th chakra, but it becomes more and more an identification of who we really are under the surface of the comings and the goings and the yearnings and the fears of our little life. Is this sense of none of that really can affect or change this transcendent bliss that I'm experiencing. The causal thought is just consciousness itself. I am. Sahasrara Chakra, in some systems of thought, isn't like a chakra like the others even. It's considered just a gateway. In tantric theory, chakra meditation mimics dying. When the average unenlightened, unexamined person leaves their body, their life is coming to an end, the sands of their karma have run out. The energy starts to move very violently up through their spine. And as it does so, it awakens and stirs the sanskaras that are lying there. And our life is lived backwards. All the events of our life as we're dying. And whichever we're still attracted to, attached to, grieve about, that shouldn't have happened. If I could do it over, I'd do it this way. Whatever the strongest reaction we have to this relived experience, those are the sanskaras that will draw us back. Typically, in an untrained and unexamined life, this huge, overwhelming reliving of our emotions and our thoughts and the events of our lives is so overpowering and overwhelming that we just react with them. We react to all of them. And so we die without having severed any of our attachments. It is said that as these chakras light up and the sanskaras have their final glowing before death, that whichever chakra has the most dominant sanskaras, drawing our energy and drawing our attention, that's the chakra through which we exit the body. To exit the body at death through a lower chakra means we had very primitive, very unexamined sanskaras. They were the dominant aspect of our lives. Everyone has these quote-unquote crude physical emotions, but to exit through the lower chakras of your body, they were the dominant element of life. To exit through Manipura or Anahata or Vishuddhi means these sanskaras of these realms were the dominant aspect of life. The most advantageous spiritually to us to eventually break the cycle of samsara is to exit the body through Sahasrara Chakra. It has no karma of its own. It's a gateway or a doorway to break the attachment we have to thinking of ourselves as a body at all. This consciousness here implies consciousness without a body. Trying to separate ourselves not just from our thinking processes, the way we examine the sixth chakra, but even the thought that I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm an American, I'm young, I'm old, I'm a human being. To even hold our entire personality as something that we are something other than that. I don't deny that I'm having that experience, but to say that's completely what I am isn't a delusion. And this habit of not identifying with a body, I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm not young, I'm not old, this habit of I exist, not limited to a body. The more frequently we approach that in our meditative and prayerful life, forgetting ourselves, the more likely we'll be able to exit the body through Sahasrara Chakra when we die. Not that we won't have samskaras and karmas, but being able to exit through Sahasrara Chakra when we die, we will be more conscious. As we awaken to the astral realm, we will be more conscious of a continuity to what we were, to what we are now. We'll be able to carry with us, I think I need to bend and twix a few things here. Whereas if we swoon and collapse at death, which is the norm, we just wake up in the astral realm, forget very soon the physical life, and all these desires and karmas and sanskaras are unconscious again in that life as well. So the ability to exit through Sahasrara doesn't mean I have no karma, but it means I will be more conscious of it as I awaken to the powers and the sensibilities of my astral or my causal existence. I will have more sense of continuity rather than just, I don't remember. I don't remember. It was too sudden. It was a shock. So Sahasrara isn't so much a storage place of sanskaras the way that the other chakras are, as a gateway, an exit, a practiced conscious dying. I die to myself daily. That was St. Paul. Am I a man? Am I a woman? Have I lived this long or that long? Am I a finite little being of 30 years? Or am I an infinite immortal who's only been temporarily encased in these 3 shells of existence? This is the habit of thought we try to rise to. And is that really thought? Something more than thought. It's a felt reality. Sahasrara Chakra.